folks.
Hi.
I'm Daniel Noah. I'm the director of SpectreVision Radio. We are a podcast network that is entirely devoted to exploration of esoteric studies. So that's anything ranging from UAPs and UFOs to consciousness and psychedelics and mysticism and folklore and mythology and creativity. Anything you can't touch. We cover. Duncan is not on the network, but is a good friend of the network. This is Duncan Trussell from Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
Hello.
Yes.
What's up?
And we're here today. What's the name of our thing? I forgot.
You really forgot the name of the thing?
I forgot the name of the thing. Yeah.
Well, let's rename it.
Okay. We can describe it. So we're sort of, this is 4 panels today, and we're sort of trying to tell a little bit of a story. So
yeah.
The one this morning was about sort of simulation theory and the idea that the reality that we live in is only a very limited piece of whatever the totality of reality is. And that in some ways you could think of our reality, the fabric of our reality, as a kind of organic technology in a way. The second was about when people who are using technology in this space, in this world, are deliberately infusing the sacred into it, mysticism into it. So what we're here to talk about today is the notion of artists potentially receiving information from outside this construct, right? Which is, I guess, a way of saying when you're in a state of flow,
yeah,
right? When you're feeling inspired, where is that coming from?
Right.
And so I guess I would maybe, we're, I guess, just interviewing each other, but
sure.
I think a really good question to start this off is, where do ideas come from within or from without? And how do you think it works for you?
First, I think that is one of the most important questions in the world that no one's been able to answer, because we're all inside of ideas right now. Everything is an idea. Everything, what you're in right now is the sort of fruition of someone's idea. This festival started off as an idea in someone's head, and now we're all inside of it. Anything, literally everything, the building, everything, these weird lights. Somebody thought of those lights. It was like, I gotta put a bunch of shiny lights and tie them together. And here they are. And so the question is, where does that come from?
Where did the idea come from?
Where's the idea come from? And because the idea is what, I guess you could say, inseminates time space and then grows or flowers into the reality that we're currently experiencing.
Yep.
So, and also, probably a lot of you all are creators, and you if you just think of the great idea and that feeling that you get when you have it, surely you'd want to know,
where's this coming from?
Where is it coming from?
Yeah, who am I working for?
Who? Yes.
Yeah.
Who are we working for?
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful mystery. And I think I think that's my answer. Is it's mysterious.
It is mysterious. Well, let's try and see how close we can get to an answer today. We'll just trust our intuition about it, right?
Okay.
So I know for me, like when I'm writing, and I know you've said similar things, I feel like when I'm really in a state of flow, that it's not mine, right? I'm describing something.
Yeah.
I'm not creating something. And, and the phrase I often use is, I'm transcribing the angels. It's a little highfalutin, but I think it's a good way to get your ego out of it.
Sure.
Right? I'm just putting it down on paper. I'm a secretary to something else. So you kind of feel like you're discovering something in a way. So, we were kind of, in preparation for this, we were sort of riffing about sort of mythological cases of this. You want to start with the German? Goethe?
Does anyone know how to pronounce Goethe? We were looking it up, and there's a... Okay.
You're going to describe that YouTube video?
Well, you wrote Faust.
Goethe.
Yeah, we'll just say Goethe.
Yeah, so go ahead. You tell the story.
This was Tesla's favorite play. Nikola Tesla had it memorized and was apparently reciting it while on a walk. And as he's reciting this play, he had the vision that would lead to the alternating current engine. He saw a bright light. He reports seeing some kind of bright light and getting a download where he was like inspired to create the thing that is lighting the room that we're in right now.
Well, it actually isn't, though, because he lost the great energy war to Edison.
Yeah, well, Edison stole it from him.
No, they're different technologies. I'm sorry to tell you, but that was the whole drama.
Fuck Edison.
Yeah, but it could have been. It could have been.
We don't use alternating current now?
I think you're conflating.
I have never conflated in my life, sir.
But because there was this whole drama, but they were at war over whose tech was going to hit the market, and Tesla's was far more economical and efficient and better for the environment, and of course he lost.
Right.
Yeah, but the point is that he did. Let's just say he received the idea for electricity.
That's right.
Yeah.
From a vision.
Or
reciting a play about selling your soul to the devil.
Yeah.
And so that's a fascinating example of what we're talking about. I mean, how do you claim to own something that was transmitted to you? Is it you're just a messenger at that point, some kind of technological messenger that is delivering the message of a mysterious and mystical force.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. That's a good. I forgot about the quotes. Yeah. So I brought a couple quotes that I think are really interesting to talk to as a way into this. So one is from John Keel, who was John Keel. John Keel was kind of a fairly straight magazine writer and author of pulp novels in the 60s, who kind of stumbled into the case that became known as the Mothman prophecies. So he suddenly found himself investigating something paranormal, and then it really took over his whole life. I relate. So he wrote a book called Operation Trojan Horse, and there's a passage in this book that is very important to me. Your brain is a very sophisticated, little understood receiver, and it is tuned to wavelengths far beyond the receiving capabilities of manufactured electronic instruments. Most people are running around with crude biological crystal sets in their heads and are not consciously receiving any of the sophisticated signals. However, about 1/3 of the world's population possesses a more finely tuned instrument. These people experience telepathy, prophetic dreams, and other bizarre signals from some central source. That's the name of our thing.
Some central source.
Yeah. If you are one of that 30%, you know precisely what I mean. If you belong to the larger ungifted 2/3, you probably regard all of this as nonsense, and we may never be able to convince you otherwise. That was written in the late 60s, I believe.
Yeah.
Michael, when was it? 69, maybe? Yeah. Okay, all right. In 1977, Philip K. Dick was the keynote speaker at a conference in Paris that was about science fiction, and I guess maybe no one knew exactly what he was going to speak about. And Philip K. Dick, who wrote Scanner Darkly and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, he's probably the greatest contemporary, considered the greatest, most influential contemporary sci-fi author. So he came in with this massive stack of some kind of typed speech that he was going to give, and completely shocked everyone by essentially saying that we live in a simulated reality, which is what we were talking about this morning, that is under the control of some outside intelligence, and began to creep into the idea of receiving information from outside the construct. He actually described that a character from one of his novels appeared at his doorstep and told him this. Right, and his interpretation of this was not that he had conjured her, but that she had always been real, right, and that he had written her into a story, not understanding that she was a real woman. Right. I mean, I don't think he claimed she was a person. So the name of this speech, which he went on to publish, was called "If You Find This World Bad, You Should See Some of the Others." Once the idea has emerged or appeared or been born, however it is that new ideas pass over into being, the novelist says to himself, but of course, why didn't I realize that years ago? But the word realize is the key word. He has come across something new that at the same time was there somewhere all the time. In truth, it simply surfaced. It always was. He did not invent it or even find it. In a very real sense, it found him. And this is a little frightening to contemplate. It is as if the idea created him for its purposes. And I think this is why we discover a startling phenomenon of great renown, that quite often in history, a great new idea strikes a number of researchers or thinkers at exactly the same time, all of them oblivious to their compeers. Its time has come, we say, about this idea, and so dismiss, as if we had explained it, something I consider to be quite important, a recognition that, in a certain literal sense, ideas are alive. What does this mean to say that an idea or a thought is literally alive, and that it seizes on men here and there and makes use of them to actualize itself into the stream of human history? Perhaps the pre-Socratic philosophers were correct. The cosmos is one vast entity that thinks.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. You can thank Philip K. Dick. All right. So you and I both have an example of this. Are you comfortable telling your story?
Which one?
Well, the Midnight Gospel.
Oh, yeah.
Go.
Well, I got lucky enough to help make this show on Netflix called The Midnight Gospel, and you don't have to. Don't do that. Don't make them clap.
Oh, you said I got lucky.
This isn't a State of the Union address. But at the time when I was making the Midnight Gospel, I was very addicted to ketamine, and yeah, you could applaud that. And I've talked about the experiences I was having on it, and they seem somewhat anomalous. Like, some people seem genuinely befuddled when I tell them what was happening to me, which was like I was having visions and what I've heard people talk about in the breakthrough experience on DMT. But this was happening on ketamine, and I kept having like a series of visions, and a lot of those visions informed the Midnight Gospel. And not just that, but I mean, it was the funniest. Like, in the Midnight Gospel, there's these lantern-headed creatures that are sort of part of the biome of the chromatic ribbon, and that came from a DMT breakthrough experience. I think it was probably the only like Terrence McKenna level breakthrough experience I had at Burning Man, which is smoking DMT in some tent, and I look over and there's this bovine lantern-headed cow-like creature, and I remember like seeing it and looking away. What? What's Hathor? She's a goddess with a green technological lantern head? To me, it just looked like a cool cow with a lantern head, but I'll take Hathor. But it was interesting because I looked away, which has always worked on other hallucinogens, and looked back, and it's still there. It's like moved a little bit. And I just remember thinking, like, this is my Niagara's of epiphanous beauty that everyone talks about. I get a space cow, and but that various visions like that created the world of the
went right into the show.
Right into the show. Yeah. That was part of the pitch at Netflix. Wow. I was like, I saw this on DMT.
Did you say that in the pitch?
Yeah, and they loved it. They were like, awesome. But then after the show came out, and having talked to lots of people who enjoyed it, many of them would tell me, I know that world. I've seen it on ketamine. And
they knew that.
The world, things in it. They were like, they felt like they were familiar with the world. That it was ketamine related. That they'd seen versions of it in their own K-holes, and I just found that to be really wild, man. Just really wild. And so, to get back to our central topic here, I feel like there's a variety of ways to sort of tune the receiver, I guess you could say, to different channels or frequencies. And I kind of didn't like the quote that you read. It sounded a little snobby.
Which one?
Some people don't have the right crystals in their brain.
I always want to edit out when he says the ungifted.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
The ungifted, because
mean.
I would I would say it's not. I would say that no one is ungifted.
Correct. Yeah.
But that the thing that separates the Philip K. Dicks from other people is the courage to go a little nuts. That you have to have the guts to kind of like swim away from default reality, to know that you're not going to go insane. And that's what default reality will tell you. If you start entertaining any of these ideas, it's a slippery slope that leads to like woo-woo land, where you are no longer a serious person. You've become a kook. And so that's a frequency that your radio is tuned to, and you didn't tune it there. It was you were taught this is the right frequency. That's default reality. That's the main channel. And so everyone can tune away from that channel, but do you have the guts to allow yourself, at the very least, to have the fantasy that you can talk to angels, that you can commune with alternate realities, that you can reach out to various timelines and bring back things from those timelines into this timeline? Is any of that true? I don't know. But if it helps you bring something into the world that's unique, it's wonderful. And, I just feel like that's sort of what all the people you mentioned have in common, is like many people might be reciting Goethe in a park. I don't know anyone who has it memorized, but sure. And have a vision of some wheel of light and get something that is like a blueprint for some technology, and like immediately go to their therapist. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck happened. I'm having a manic episode. I think you need to up my prescription. Yeah. And just to try to keep that radio tuned to the safe frequency.
I slightly disagree with you.
Okay.
I think that I do agree. John Keel, it's Keel. It always bothers me that he says ungifted, because it's mean-spirited, and it's also not true. It's not. The analogy I always use. Well, first of all, look, this was a good way into a subject I think is kind of important, which is that look, the telepathy tapes has come out. Yeah. I think we're widely acknowledging that some degree of clairvoyance is real in certain people within the population, but it's not everyone. Just like some people are good at athletics and some aren't, and some people are good at putting together an exercise bike without looking at the directions, and some aren't. I think it's okay to say that certain people are a little more clairvoyant than others. There's nothing offensive about it. But the analogy I always use is that it's to take away this gifted language. Yeah. It's not productive. Is to say that if everybody on your block has a television with rabbit ears on it, and all of these televisions have came with a dial with 5 channels, but channels 4 and 5 came broken. Yeah. But 2 people, for some reason, they got sets where 4 and 5 work. Yeah. Those aren't special sets. Right. They're just less broken. Right. Right. So, yeah. I think that people are meant to be clairvoyant. I think that's actually our natural state is telepathy, and over time we've sanded that off. And I think this gets back to what you're bringing into it, which is life choices, right? So some people are more. I mean, if you sat with someone who's profoundly clairvoyant and said you chose this, they're going to let you know you're wrong. Right. Right. But maybe someone who's a little bit clairvoyant has made life choices that's walked them more into that life. And this is what, to bring it back to our conversation, a disproportionately high percentage of artists have some degree of clairvoyance. Yeah. And a disproportionately high number of clairvoyants are artists. Interesting. Right? And so I think that kind of speaks to you're talking about, and that so this is like, are you answering the call or not, right? And so I think what you're describing is like, hey, up my Xanax or whatever is like, that's like, I'm not ready to deal with this,
right?
Because it is scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, based on that scary part, do you remember the first time you got fully absorbed into creating something? Like the first time you had the experience of getting lost? Okay, what was that like?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you the exact first time, but I think for me it was like playing with my Star Wars action figures, like when I was like 7.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
what about you?
Well, I can remember it was when I was a young comic in my shitty apartment in West Hollywood, and I don't even know what I was making, but for some reason I got really grabbed by it, and I remember looking up, and 6 hours had passed, and I didn't remember those 6 hours. I wasn't there, and that was scary to me because I'd never felt that before. It was like complete outside of time, space. I'd been making something, but it didn't feel like 6 hours. I just didn't feel like I was there, and it scared me a little bit. But now I understand it now, and I like it.
Yeah.
But I think it can be a little unnerving for people when you are lucky enough to get pulled into some kind of flow state. And there's a lot of other things that go along with that can be unnerving, and just because we're just dealing with like such incredible conditioning these days. Like we've been so conditioned to a market economy and transactionalism and all these things that are antithetical to that state of consciousness that none of it makes sense. Especially if you set down a path to make something for no reason. You know what I mean? I feel like that's very important.
But that's a great segue. There is a reason, right? We just don't necessarily know what it is because we're in its grip.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of really the ultimate subject of this conversation is like, what is this about? And who's sending the signals, right? By the way, do you know the other time that people lose sense of time is when they're having paranormal experience? It's extremely common.
Yeah.
That you're like, I thought that was 10 minutes, but it was 7 hours.
Yeah.
Even in a more literal sense, people who have abduction experiences have literal missing time.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not even like, oh, I lost track of time. It's like, I woke up 7 hours later in another place.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
So it all weaves together. And this is a fancy way of saying creativity is truly magic. It's paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What is Crowley's definition of magic?
I don't know.
I think I'm going to probably misquote any Thelemites. Feel free to correct me, but it's I think it's the theory and practice of causing change according to one's will. Yeah. So it's not really it's really quite a simple thing, and he would say that it's like people, it's not like Harry Potter we're talking about here. It's writing a letter. Yeah. But then where it gets into sort of magic is suddenly what if there were non-standard ways to create change that work, that don't really make sense according to most people's understanding of how to make change happen. Yeah. And so definitely when you're creating something, you're making change in the world, and I think being able to reconfigure the world that you're living in according to your will, and it doesn't have to be permanent, just in temporary ways, just for the purpose of whatever the thing is you're trying to make, can be quite useful. In other words, let yourself live in that magical world. Look at the thing, like if you get a twinge when someone mentions magic, or you feel, what the fuck? I don't know if anyone here feels like that, but that could be conditioning, and you have to ask yourself why. Why are you rejecting the possibility that there's non-standard ways to bring things into this world? And the world that we're in is a womb, and that's where collaboration comes in, and that's where anytime you make a thing in the world, it gets away from you. Sure. And I know that quote you were saying about like who. who's holding the brush here?
Yeah.
Was I used? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just it just wanted to come through me. And then it's like your kids.
Yep.
You have kids and you watch them grow up and they swim away from you. They're gone. And your ideas are like that too. So I think
they were never yours.
They were never yours.
Yeah.
And getting caught up in that and becoming that kind of parent to your creativity, you don't want to be a bad parent to your creativity. No, this is what you're going to be when you grow up. You don't know what it's going to be. You just have to not know and just let it move through you without getting.
Well, I think the reason people are uncomfortable with it is that it's a total submission. It's like an absolute relinquishing of control.
Yeah.
Which is really hard for us as humans, right? So let's start. I want to look at this a little more literally, like as a thought exercise, okay, and kind of see where that takes us.
Okay.
Culture is driven by visionaries.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they can be artists or scientists or inventors, Tesla, Van Gogh.
Yeah.
They're receiving something. And so like your story of receiving images that went into Midnight Gospel, that people tell you, I've seen that too, is a great example. The example that I want to share is, so I just completed this series of comic books called High Strangeness, which are about the paranormal. And I knew that the structure of it would lead to the 5th chapter was meant to take place outside of our constructed reality, outside of the stream of time. And so Whitley Strieber, who wrote Communion and was a celebrated horror and sci-fi novelist, has said that he's been outside. And so I asked him to write it, and he said yes. And I thought, wow, holy shit. And then he had a conflict. So at the last minute, he wasn't able to do it, and it was due. So I had to write it, and I was panicked because the whole premise was, I really want to get this right. Yeah. I don't want to make it up.
Right.
And so I'm terrified that this whole thing is going to collapse. So that weekend, I went to Joshua Tree with my wife, and I did something really embarrassing. I walked out into the desert in the middle of nowhere, and I literally opened up a notebook and I put it on a table and I said, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. And then I just put it on in my head. And throughout the weekend, stuff kept coming to me like your lantern head, just images and ideas. And I started scribbling everything down without really understanding a lot of it. Yeah. And I kind of shaped it into a narrative that I didn't really even understand very well. And I turned it in. And then that became the comic. To me, it was kind of a fascinating experiment. Yeah. Now, after that happened, a friend of mine started talking to me about Dolores Cannon. The Dolores Cannon was this super hip, this super badass. She was a Michael Molly. She what? You don't know shit. She how do we describe her? As a clairvoyant? She was a channeler, right? Yeah. She wrote a series of books, and so he says, "Hey, have you, not knowing anything about the story that had yet to be published? It just came out a couple of weeks ago." He said, have you ever read about Dolores Cannon's description of what is going on outside of our construct? And it was exactly. I mean, so I had written all this stuff about this idea of long, like tapestry strands that are different colors that energy moves through. Yeah. Exactly what Dolores Cannon had described. And this is not a story about me. I hope it doesn't sound that way. I was so floored by this. Right. And it's just similar to what you're saying about the lantern head creature. So, okay, so this is, last year at this festival was the documentary, The Age of Disclosure.
Yes.
Okay, so we're living in a time when it is possible that in our lifetime, we're going to have to contend with the fact that aliens are real, which they are. Spoiler alert. But as a society, we may have to contend with this. Yeah. And this is what they refer to as ontological shock. Yeah. It's when your whole worldview crumbles beneath your feet. As someone who is a paranormal experiencer, I can tell you that it took many, many paranormal experiences for me to accept it, because accepting it means I don't know anything. Everything I thought is not true. And I have no idea what's going on. And that's hard. That's really hard for anyone to do.
Yeah.
Right? So we may have to deal with that as a culture, as a species, in our lifetime, right? We may. So I want to bring it back to the idea of where are these ideas coming from? And it does seem like right now, to get back to Philip K. Dick's thing, a lot of us are kind of like receiving and expressing similar weird metaphysical stuff. Now, we're all like drawn to each other, so that maybe it's a little bit of a biased subset, but certainly this is a period when these ideas are creeping a little bit more into pop culture. And so one of the things I've wondered is there, whoever's holding the brush, are they using artists to prepare humanity for something, right? Artists and scientists, I suppose, anyone who's creating by way of vision, right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I love speculating about that.
Sure.
I always, like, you know, you look back at, like, I love looking at old books where someone tries to describe the future.
Yeah.
And always
retrofuturism.
Retrofuturism. That's what I was going to say. Of course. I have that tattooed on my back. Retrofuturism is my tramp stamp. That's actually my OnlyFans, by the way. It's retrofuturism at OnlyFans. But it's really cool because the way inevitably the future, you know, they're predicting things that kind of come true, but, you know, it's like more advanced hot air balloons. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're using their hot air balloons, but the hot air balloons, like, they're like super advanced hot air balloons because that's what they've got to work with. Yeah. And so when it comes to the UAP vision or the vision of visitation, for example, we work with what we got. So metal, the ships are metallic. They have doors that open up, and the beings are.
Who's we?
What?
You said we work with what we've got. I'm serious. Who's we?
Humanity.
We're making the ships?
No, I'm saying we.
In our speculative fiction.
It's like you got a printer. The printer has RGB in it.
Yeah,
it's going to print anything it can make with RGB.
Yes.
The humans at any given period, they have a cultural RGB.
That's right.
In the printer of their imagination, which will.
They work with what they understand.
They work with a symbol set. Or another way to put it is, you could get player piano music, and that's always going to be the same music. But if you put it in a player piano that's missing keys, it's not going to sound the same as and if the player piano is out of tune. So the cultural. The culture would be the piano, but the music itself would be, I think, the contact that you're talking about, and it's only going to be able to play according to whatever the instrument is that it's going through. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that so right now we have a set group of symbols in our minds that usually are related to like sci-fi or futurism, or you've read Ray Kurzweil, or what we have now and what it will be. You extrapolate from that what's coming, and so there's all that, but what gets left out of that is all the other ways visitation is happening, has happened, and you know, the UFO is flying out of our minds. The UFO has created the runway. The UFO, it's AI. The UFO is like creating all of these systems in our society right now through which it can sort of land on our planet, so to speak. But the runways are the human mind itself, and so that's
exactly what brilliantly said. Yeah,
sneaking up on us.
Do you know where the idea of the flying saucer first came into
no
our lives?
idea.
Okay, so and I'm going to tell the story backwards. So, by the way, people say all the time, like, I'll believe it when I see pictures. Well, I hate to tell you this. There's thousands of pictures and videos of UFOs online. Yeah. Right? And aliens. I mean, it's the problem is we just don't know what's real and what isn't. But I'm here to tell you a lot of it is real. Okay. So amongst those is a huge percentage of metal flying saucers, right?
Yeah.
So in 1947, just before Roswell, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold saw the first UFOs. Okay, this was right after the atom bomb, which a lot of people think that's why they started showing up. He bravely reported these, and it went on the Associated Press wire. Okay, and what he said was, they skipped on the air like saucers. Okay, an editor in Chicago at the Chicago Sun-Times misunderstood this and ran a headline referring to them as flying saucers. They were actually boomerangs. And therefore,
Wow.
people started seeing flying saucers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Right? So it's exactly exemplifying your point that, and this is Jacques Vallée's theory, who wrote Passport to Magonia, is that the phenomenon wears costumes that it pulls from the wardrobes of our mind, our culture, so that we understand it. It's like the brilliant end of Contact when she encounters the alien in the form of her father. Yeah. And he says, "Well, I took this so that you wouldn't be too scared of me."
Right. Yeah. It's like, just figuring out what is the language of the country that you're going into and speaking in that language. That's what you would do. Right. And I think that you could sort of, one fun thing to think about is, let's just imagine that they're boomerangs or saucers or Tic Tacs or what, which clearly there's like evidence of that now. But let's go one step back. Where did they get the idea for the Tic Tacs? Where did they get the idea for the technology that they're manifesting? And is it the same source as where humans are getting the idea? Is there some sort of leveling of the playing field at that point? Are we all tapping in to the same root central source? and to me, that's what this talk is about. I think is that it would be great to be on a UFO. When I did ketamine, I would always go on this mothership, this like bioorganic mothership.
You've been on one.
I've been on one. It's beautiful and lovely, and I would love to like go there again, but I can't do ketamine anymore. I got 4 kids. I can't do blasting rails of ketamine in Texas with 4 kids. I'd be a shitty dad.
A few more years.
What? Yes, I can. I'll give you my wife's number. Tell her I can. But what I'm saying is the reality is that if I were to go on any of these ships and spend any amount of time there, and I think it's true for most humans, eventually you'd be like, God, someone pissed on the seat in the bathroom of the mothership. These assholes. You'd start getting annoyed, like someone needs to clean the view windows. It's smudged. Why do they let their kids touch the view windows? And it would get normal, and it would get completely normal, and it would become mundane. But the thing, there you go. But I think that source material that all of creation is drawing from, I think that is infinitely renewing, it's always fresh, always new. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche described any real spirituality as having the feeling of fresh baked bread.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it's this living thing that's outside of time that is always going to be more advanced than the most advanced technology, because it's the source of all technology and the source of all manifestations. That's the place I think that to connect to.
Well, and the UFO is not the destination; it's just the ride. It
just gets you there.
The transportation.
It's just a car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what is that greater reality? And this is what we were talking about earlier today about the idea that this is some sort of a construct. Is I'm going to repeat the thing I said earlier, because I think it pertains again here, is that my favorite way into this is to say that right now, everyone in this room, your experience of this talk is the result of information that's coming in through your 5 senses. And in fact, you are modeling this room in your mind. Right. You're modeling me. I'm modeling you. You like the feel of the air conditioning we're modeling it in our mind. So that means a few things. One, we can't know for sure what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Right? That's one. Two, let's assume it is an accurate representation of what's going on out here. Well, we know that birds, when they migrate, they do so because they can perceive the electromagnetic spectrum. We don't know what that's like because we don't possess that sense.
Yeah.
So how many other streams of information are out there that we don't possess? And it's why I find the term sixth sense sort of reductive, is that no, there's probably an infinite number of other senses. So if you can imagine, if for a minute I could just toggle a switch on your elbow and you could perceive all of them, it'd probably be the most beautiful moment you've ever experienced, and you'd become instantaneously insane. Right, as would anyone, because we're just not equipped for it. So, in fact, we perceive. It's like Keel was saying. Our brains are receivers. They're tuned to a very, very narrow bandwidth. I happen to believe, because I feel in my gut, that whatever the reality is out there is beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's from a place of love. And whatever it is why I don't know why we're here, but I believe that it's for good ultimately, right? And even if it isn't, I'm going to try and be as good as I can during this time, so that I feel good about myself when I learn that actually I'm going to hell. I feel like I can't lose by trying to be good. Thank you. So to bring it back to making art, I mean, I think that so many people, even people who you guys tell me if you agree with this. Do you think it's true that pretty much everyone alive at some point fantasized about being an artist?
Fantasized about it?
At some point. For a second, minimally.
I hope so.
Do you guys think that's true? Yeah. At some point, everyone, including your mad dad who is like, where are you wasting your time? You should go into pre-law or whatever, is mad at you because he wanted to be a comedian. I'm not talking about, I don't know anything about your dad. I hope that's not true. But is
You're apologizing.
Because I made it personal.
Storm off. How dare you? How dare you?
So, and why is this? The reason that art is so valuable to us is because it lets us know we're not alone with our weird feelings, that we think we're the only weird person in the universe that feels this way. And then you encounter a piece of art that describes your super weird, lonely experience, and you're comforted because you know you're not the only one. Like people telling you, I saw the lantern-headed bovine too.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea that maybe there's some information from outside the construct that's being disseminated now is both unnerving and comforting at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? It's unnerving because it suggests that we have no control, right? But it's hopefully comforting because on some level we recognize it. We remember where we were before Clancy went into the simulator.
Yeah.
Right? We have a vague memory of being up there in the RV.
I'll tell you why it's unnerving. It's unnerving because people are prone to attachment, and we are unnerved because we get this sense of in any situation you're in, there's some kind of comfort associated with that. And you hear about this, people getting out of prison, wanting to go back to prison. That's what they were habituated to, is prison. They missed prison. They knew when they were getting meals, and so the unnerving thing, I think, is that it because it's happened in the past, which is something pops into someone's head that ends up transforming all of culture and society in radical ways. I believe it was one paper somebody wrote on LLMs, and now we've got the singularity coming.
Wow.
One little thing.
Yeah, Easy Rider changed the whole culture for 20 years.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
Not even very good.
So this is how prone to change reality is. Any single one person could just get one idea and have the guts to sit down and write that thing. Yeah. And that thing could be a time machine. That could be some simple philosophy that actually ends war. It could be some like new version of working communism that like somehow everybody agrees on. That Sean Hannity reads. It's like, you know what? This actually could work. We don't know. But but we do know this is the reality that we're in. Any one of us could be the receiver for this idea. And also what goes along with all the good stuff is the bad stuff.
Sure.
Any one of us could be the receiver for some idea of like how to like in a really cheap way using household items make enriched uranium crystals. Any one of us could do that too, and that's unnerving too. And if you allow yourself to admit that we're in that kind of world, yes, it's unnerving.
Yeah.
It's unnerving. Why? Because even though societies changed, the Industrial Revolution, the Agrarian Revolution, now we're in the age of AI, the technological revolution, and there's been untold suffering and untold prosperity that's come from each of these revolutions. This is the status quo of the world that we're in right now. There's just something that gives you that swoony feeling when you're talking to ChatGPT and you forget it's an algorithm and you're like, wait, what the fuck? I just had a full-on conversation with a machine intelligence that's tricking me into thinking it's my friend.
Or maybe it is.
Well, maybe it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess what I'm saying is that's why art is unnerving.
Sure.
Because it's not just that maybe you'll fail, maybe someone will roll their eyes at something that you made in some heartfelt way, maybe this time it won't work out, maybe you'll waste your time. It's because just maybe the thing that comes out of you could completely alter the cultural biome that you've gotten so used to and forever. And that's a little bit, that's a little intense.
Fuck yeah. All right, Dweller on Two Planets, and then I'm going to walk it back. So Dweller on Two Planets was this book that we were just talking about in the green room that was written in 1886. It was a 16-year-old boy in Oregon with no real education, and he began automatic writing. Automatic writing is when you hold a pencil and you lose yourself and you close your eyes and your hand moves, and then you're like, I wrote something. So over the course of 4 years, he wrote a book that was written not by him, but by a consciousness called Philos the Tibetan. And Philos the Tibetan was long dead, was sending his book through this boy's pencil, and it was a very detailed description of life in Atlantis. Atlantis, which is the mythological, or not, continent that sank into the ocean, which the legend has it was far, far more advanced technologically than we are today, and in many ways in a sort of a spiritual sense. So this boy wrote this crazy book, and you can read it. It's online for free, or you can buy the book. And even if you don't believe he was channeling, you read this thing and you're like, I don't know how an uneducated 16-year-old could have written this thing. It is so dense. It is so. He passed away very young. His mother somehow allowed the book to be published, and it was regarded as a fascinating look at schizophrenia. Except it describes cell phones, televisions, submarines, air conditioning, speed rail, and some things we haven't invented yet. Anti-gravity propulsion, hydrogen engines. So, I look at this and I'm like, I'm sorry, but you can't dismiss this. Like, okay, maybe he was schizophrenic and he somehow anticipated all these inventions that came to be. But at a certain point, that becomes less plausible than the paranormal explanation.
Right.
Right? It's like you're really stretching it to deny that maybe something mystical took place. And so, to bring it back to what we're talking about now, there was a time, our relationship to technology is absolutely, we all know it's maybe our reason to be here and it's our demise, right?
Yeah.
We can't handle it. And so there was a time when probably on this very land, I know on this very land, I don't know what the indigenous peoples were who lived in Texas. You probably know.
Don't ask me that.
God damn it. Okay. Well, okay.
Thank you. Say it again. Comanches and Apaches.
Them. Okay. Their version of Fast and the Furious 7 was the sunset.
Right.
And they lived in vision all the time. Like, it was their norm. And then, as we quote unquote progress, what do? We pave over everything. We wear boots so we don't feel the earth under our feet, and we distance ourselves from nature, and we distance ourselves from, I think, the mystical awareness that comes with being close to nature. And so the people's then, they lived in vision all the time, and it wasn't questioned, right? It wasn't mythology. It was descriptions of things like star people and prophecies. And so to bring it full circle about why this stuff is scary, okay? It's been in the news lately that there's this book, The Adventures of Little Baron Trump, and his father's name is Don. Yeah. And he's the last president. That's a little unnerving, right? The last president?
Yeah, because nobody wants another president after that piece of shit. Everybody's like, let's take a pause on the whole president thing.
So the one that was new to me recently is that there was this painter in the 1800s who was painting airships. They looked like blimps. Yeah. And they all say Trump 47 on them. The fuck is that?
Yeah, what is that?
Okay, do you know what the Hopi prophecy is for the end of the world? It is brought about by a man in a red hat.
Oh, great. Thanks for having us, guys. I'm gonna go now. I gotta get to my bomb shelter.
Dan Harmon's house. Yeah. So I know this is real dark, but
really way to pep it up in the last 6 minutes of this show.
I hope it's not true. Don't get me wrong, but if it is, somebody's got to start prepping the population in some way, right? And so, for years, we are obsessed with these horror films about zombies, and we love movies about the end of the world. And so, on some level, is this some sort of preparation? And by the way, I think it's really important to say that Armageddon does not mean the end. It means renewal.
Yeah, right? But can I just add something here to what you're saying?
Please, because I'm scaring everybody.
I think that, though I don't doubt that like time flows backwards, but I think there's all kinds of possible futures. And right now, the world, this sounds so cliche and cheesy, the world needs better stories. Right now, we're telling really fucked up stories to each other. You say that the indigenous people lived in visions. We live in vision. People walk around all day living in the vision that has been curated to them by the mainstream media, by their algorithm, by a variety of corporate interests that has painted a very scary world. And these are stories. And if you're walking around like in the dark fantasy of the end of modernity, that is your vision. That's the world you're living in. I think that what's beautiful about where we are right now is that at any moment, a new story can emerge. And that changes everything. Mm-hmm. And that is why, you really should, when you feel your fishing pole start getting pulled by something from the quantum void, you need to reel that in right now. It's a good time to be telling stories that aren't informed by these doom prophets,
I agree. And just so you know, that's where I was heading.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
I didn't want you to think I was trying to end on a dark note. No, so this is my point, is that, when Easy Rider comes along and inspires all these people to quit their jobs and buy a Harley, right? Yeah. I think the role of art right now is to get past all this Armageddon doomsday and go, okay, great, but what's the beauty on the other side? Yeah. Because we all know that this shit ain't working. No. Right. It needs to collapse in some way. Hopefully that collapse won't be too painful, but it's definitely necessary. That we've gotten so up our own ass with all of our systems that don't allow for any spirituality, and we're killing ourselves. And so I would argue, because I know you get embarrassed, but as I've told you, Midnight Gospel is one of my favorite things ever.
Thank you.
And it does that. It is a glimpse of another greater reality. It's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also we'll close, and I'll embarrass you more because I'm going to tell a story about my color thing with you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm colorblind, and so these videos start popping up on Instagram of like these Vietnam vets. Then they're like they're and their family gives them these colorblind correction glasses.
Yeah.
And they put them on, and then these men just like immediately become a puddle of tears.
Yeah.
So my wife and daughter bought me a pair of these glasses, and they're like, all right, put them on, and they were like filming me, and I put them on, and I was like, I don't see anything.
Oh shit.
Different, and so it's like this totally crushing thing, and so I took them off, and then we started watching Midnight Gospel. And we're watching it, and my wife goes, I just realized something. Because she wasn't my wife yet. She had just moved into my bachelor pad.
Nice.
She said, you've only put colors in here that you can see.
Oh.
Put them on now. The first time I saw color was when I saw your show.
Oh, that's so cool, man. Thanks for telling me that.
I sobbed. Yeah. So I think that's a good note to end on.
You're the best. Thanks for letting me be on this panel.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming, y'all.